Hi, my name is James Shepard, and today I'm going to talk to you about a really big trap in cash discounting, which is tips. Now, I'll be honest with you, this is probably one of the more complicated videos slash podcast episodes I've done. This is like my fourth take right now, which is really unusual for me. I'm kind of the one take guy on these things, but it's just really hard to explain. And so I just told Josh, who's shooting the video back here, I said, you know what, Josh? I'm just shooting a video. If they don't get it, then they're just gonna have to play it again. It's really important, but it's complicated and it's gonna take a little time. You may have to kind of think through it and draw some stuff out on a piece of paper, pull your car over, you know. So this is a tough one, all right? But it's a really big problem. I just worked with a merchant about a week ago where they were paying an extra $1,000 a month. We were able to save them $1,000 a month from another cash discounting company to come over to the one I work with. We saved them $1,000 a month because of this problem, so it's a big deal. So let me just explain it to you, okay? So for those of you who don't understand how cash discounting works, at its core, it's pretty simple, okay? We're collecting a service fee from the consumer, okay, on every transaction. So let's say we have an item in the store that costs, we're in a store that sells hats, right? And this hat costs $100. Maybe it's a really nice hat, I don't know. But it's a $100 hat. And they go up to the counter and they're like, I want to pay for this hat, and it has a sticker price of $100. Well, there's a sign on the counter that says, we have instituted a customer service fee of 3.5% on everything in the store. But if you pay with cash, you get a discount that's going to negate that, so it'd be $100. Well, I'm going to pay with my card. So I'm going to have this 3.5% customer service fee. So instead of paying $100, I'm now going to pay $103.50, okay? This $3.50 is not supposed to go to the merchant. It's supposed to go to the processor. The processor then takes that $3.50 and then they cover the interchange cost of processing the transaction and whatever other Schedule A costs are associated, and then whatever's left over becomes profit for the sales rep, okay? Seems pretty simple so far, right? Customer service fee, it's collected, that goes towards the interchange, the rest is profit, that gets split up as, residuals. Well, so where you run into problems is how the processor gets that $3.50, okay? So let me explain the correct way to do it first. The correct way to do it is that $3.50 should be taken from the merchant. It should not even show up on their credit card processing statement. That $3.50 should be held in escrow, in an escrow account, meaning that the processor is just holding onto the money and it just keeps adding up every day with all their transactions. And then at the end of the month, whatever the interchange is, you pay the interchange. Whatever's left over becomes profit for the residuals. That's how it should work. Seems pretty simple, right? Well, here's the big problem. Processors are almost all of them, I should say none of them really, hardly any of them are set up to hold money in escrow. They're just not set up to do that. Or I should say they're not set up to separate it and hold it in a separate account in escrow. And so instead, the way that many of them have put together these slipshod cash discounting programs in a terrible way, in my opinion, is they have used something called the daily discount. So let me explain the daily discount because it's a very different concept, and then we're going to bring the two together. So the daily discount was created a long time ago because you have some merchants where they're paying, $1,000 a month in credit card processing fees, and the processor realized that instead of charging them $1,000 once a month, they could withhold maybe 2% or 3% of their daily volume, and they would collect that money and then they would apply it to the fees at the end of the month. Seems really rational. So the processors were all trying to scramble because there are a few legitimate cash discount companies out there that are holding the money in escrow doing it the right way. So all these other big companies are like, oh, we got to have a cash discount program too. We don't want to lose reps. So they're like, how do we collect that service fee and hold it? Well, we already have something for that. It's called a daily discount, right? Of course. We'll just do a daily discount. So if we have a 3.5% customer service fee, we can just do a daily discount of about the same thing, and we'll just collect that same money back from the merchant with the daily discount. And so that way we're going to hold it, and the money that goes into their account is going to be correct. Then at the end of the month, we have the money, we pay all the fees, everything's good, right? Wrong. Because about 20-30% of the merchants out there do some kind of a tip. Well, there's a really big problem with the tip. When you're doing cash discounting and you have a customer service fee, the customer service fee has to be disclosed to the consumer at the time of the sale, okay? Now, think about this for a second. You go to a restaurant and you buy something. You go to a bar, you go to a tavern, you go to a sit-down restaurant, whatever, pizza shop. You buy something and you spend $100 in there. They bring you your receipt. Now your receipt's going to have the customer service fee on it right then of 3.5%, which is going to be $3.50. Well, then you decide you're a good person, you want to do a 20% tip. So you add $20 to your order. You sign the receipt, you hand it back to the person. Can they now charge a 3.5% fee on that $20? No. You know why? Because then they can't disclose it to you because you already left. Okay? So they're not collecting the 3.5% on the tip. Now, if the processor is holding the money in escrow, it doesn't even matter. Because, as long as your percentage is high enough, that's why you want to make sure you tip merchants, you want to price them a little higher on the customer service fee should be a little higher. But, you're collecting 3.5%, 3.75%, whatever. It's usually plenty enough to cover the interchange fee and produce a really healthy residual profit for you, right? Well, that would be if it's being done correctly. However, the way most of the processors are doing it is with this daily discount garbage. And so what they're doing is the 3.5% customer service fee is being collected on the $100, but the processor is then charging the merchant the same 3.5%. It's a little less because of some math there, but they're basically charging the same percentage on 120. So the processor is collecting money from the merchant on the tip that the merchant is actually not collecting. You have to let that one sink in because that's a little complicated, right? But what's happening is on that transaction I just gave you is the merchant's like, cool, I collected $3.50 because that's 3.5% of $100. But then we have this other $20 that they're going to have to pay interchange on. They're going to have to pay fees on, right? But we didn't collect anything off of that. But because the processor is using daily discount to get the money, the processor has no way of knowing how much of the volume was tip and how much of it was not tip. You don't ever see, you look at a statement and see a sit-down restaurant, see if the processor splits out how much they collected in tips. They have no idea. So they're collecting it on everything. So what happens is at the end of the month, here the processor collected 3.8% effective rate on the merchant, right? They collected tons of money on the daily discount, but the merchant still owes $100, $200, $1,000 because they didn't collect as much money as the processor took because the processor isn't actually holding the money in escrow. Instead, what they're doing is they're doing a daily discount and they don't know how much of it is tip, so they don't know how much to take. And I had a merchant just like that last week where flipping them over was saving them around $1,000 a month. It was a large bar. They do a lot of tips. And it was a nice bar. They do a lot of tips. And here what was happening is they were collecting money and the processor was making a massive profit. I mean, massive profit. There was no reason whatsoever for them to charge the merchant anything other than a couple monthly fees and maybe a few, interchange things that didn't pass muster or whatever. But there's no reason to do that. But guess what? Because of the tips, it got all screwed up and the merchant was ticked. And they started looking at their statement. And guess what? On their statement, all the fees are listed because the processor is doing it this stupid way where they're doing the daily discount instead of holding it in escrow. And so they're looking at it. They're trying to figure it out. They can't figure it out. The rep can't figure it out. The rep's calling me. I'm looking at it. I can't figure it out. It took me about 20 minutes. And finally, I'm like, oh man, whoops, you can't do that. That's a big problem right there. And I was like, look, there's literally nothing your current processor can do to fix that problem. Nothing. It is impossible for them to fix that problem. They can't. They can guess, but there's no good way to solve that problem. You need to go with somebody that's doing it in escrow. So anyway, all that to say, if you're looking for a processor to do that, you want some introductions or whatever, go to ccsalespro.com, click on Partner with James, fill out the form there. I'd be glad to talk to you and kind of explain that in more detail if you have some additional questions. But that was one of my most complicated podcast/videos ever. So if you understand it, you must be really smart. My name is James Shepard. Have an awesome day.